You are now in a very dank room. A weird man sits in the corner using adjectives to describe nouns. 'Cause that's what they do. Adjectives describe nouns, children. That's what they do. Literally what they do. Thank you. Look, if you're big, fat, old, smelly, weird, stank, flappity, slappity, jiggity, jangly, stank ass of a booty, is being referred to in such a way, thems was all adjectives that described it. So, like, ta-da, magic. Oh ho ho, it's magic, don't you know? Never believe it's not so. Ho ho, it's magic. Never believe. Anyway, regardless, look, I don't know where you think you are. I know where you know you are. Oh, look, this place. Yes. This is the island of crafting. With old Rembles Pembles of the Clemsony Pembertons. That's right. It's your friend. It's your pal. It's your old chubby bubby womrum. Anyway, I don't know what that means. Just kidding. It's a reference from one of our dinosaurs is missing. Regardless, that's a very old movie that no one has seen, and that if you've ever seen it, you're like, oh, it's freaking hilarious. And then somebody be like, do you want to watch it right now? And you'd be like, ooh, I don't have 7 hours to enjoy the parts that I remember laughing at. So maybe I'm not going to sit there and watch it with you right now. Anyway, yeah. It's a great movie. It's a piece of cinematic filmetries, the likes of which you cannot believe. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, look, let me tell you. Well, first let's play the theme song, then I'll tell you what's happening and why. Why the things that are happening are happening. I'm not saying why. Why? Why? I'm not, begging emptily to an infinite cosmos which is unaware of my suffering and indifferent to my existence. Anyway, like the one that exists. Okay, here, let me play this theme song.
This has always been the theme song. This has always been the theme. This has always been the theme song. This has always been the theme. Cha.
Oh, that was beautiful. Beautiful. I hope you all stood for our national anthem and, did the little, cross your fingers, turn it around, and then make it look like you have one long, weird finger in the middle flipping back and forth. You know that trick? You know the one I'm talking about? The one where if people don't know the trick, it's because they're turning their hands the wrong way. You put your hands together, you turn it, and there you go. But you can't turn it the other way because you're. Doesn't make sense. Anyway, regardless, we are off to a rollicking start. We are winning. First of all, we've done you the favor of showing absolutely no Minecraft whatsoever. thus far. We're not even in the world yet. So, great episode, everyone. You've done amazing. Thank you. Thank you. This has been amazing. And you all are all my very favorites. Anyway, hey people. So these are words that I'm going to be saying, and maybe I'll stop mining obsidian for a bit, because, it's not the most glitzy of things that I'm working on currently. I mean, I do want to take this all the way back. But just on this level, because I'm also creating a new level of obsidian down here every time I pour water on the lava. But, like, I want a lot of obsidian, but I don't want it to be a stupid amount. You know what I'm saying? I don't want it to be like, wow, you have wasted your life gathering obsidian. Like, holy crap. Your entire existence is 100% meaningless. Anyway, let's stop talking about the meaninglessness of existence, because people don't like talking about it. Well, I don't know. Sometimes people do. Sometimes I trick people into thinking that they enjoy it. But, like, when I say meaninglessness, sometimes people take that entirely the wrong way. Because when I say meaninglessness of existence, I'm not talking about, like, that there can't be joy or happiness, or, that you can't find purpose in life. It's just that, you don't come with a pre-built set of instructions that tell you what it means to be a success, to consider your own life viable and good and successful, that you can look back on and say, I have no regrets. I'm doing fine. I'm good with what I have. This is, choices that I have made that I stand behind, that I would make again given the same set of circumstances. Now, granted, I may be assuming quite a bit, because, like, I know people in my life who have made very big mistakes, mistakes that they made honestly, they didn't go into them thinking like, if we mess up, who cares? I'm not going to take responsibility for anything. Boo. Like nothing as sinister as all that. Really just very much, like not everything that you choose in life works out, and not everything that you want to go a certain way goes the way that you want it to go, and yeah. So sometimes you find yourself in some pretty crappy situations that you would not have chosen for yourself at all. The old suffering that we all do in life, to one extent or another. But, like, I think it's interesting. It's going to sound very stupid, But in the philosophy of the Matrix, yes, the Keanu Reeves movies that get more terrible with each one, yes. Um, so, when the machines are, or when the agents Smith, because the agents Smith become this like self-acting entity that was originally created by the machines, but then begins to have its own sort of self-awareness. Anyway, and then of course, find the designer, and there's a whole thing about like, oh, you've been Neo like a billion times. Or there's always been a Neo like a bajillion times over. It just happens and happens and happens because, like, you are the remainder. You are the extra bit. Anyway, regardless. The interesting thing within the philosophy, within the philosophy of the Matrix is that you can have a beautiful fantasy and it's going to be completely worthless if what's really lying beneath is nightmarish. And so it's always better to know. It's always better to know than to not know. And it's always better to cope with than to not cope with. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay. I don't know. I'm just, I don't know why I'm on this tangent in general, but like, I was talking about the meaninglessness of life. Yeah. So, like, the fact of the matter is that if, like, okay, take someone, like, there's someone very close to me who, like, they married a person that they believed that they loved at the time. They were very young. Circumstances were different. They were operating under different belief systems, which taught them to have different standards for their, chosen life partner and whatnot. Like, and so it led to a decision which obviously, if eyes were wide open, and, like, if we knew then what we know now, obviously that is not the decision that she would have made because of what he has done, which is the most despicable thing that I can think of for a person to do. Like, honestly, he is the worst human I know, and any horrible thing that happens to him is good. And is beneficial and wonderful. I don't know what's happening out there, but we will accept it. It's probably kitties. Could be a roaming wife. I don't know. I think she would have spoken to me by this point, so I'm going to guess kitties knocking things over. Anyway, so, yeah, like, this lovely person, they, like, they married someone who, like, betrayed them on a level that we are still coping to, like, fully not, I wouldn't say understand, but sort of just cope with. You know what I'm saying? Like, because it is so vile, so terrible what this person has done. I, ugh, no. This person deserves whatever awful thing awaits them. And here's a fun thing. You know what I'm saying? So like this person that I care about a great deal, you know, they are a lovely person who like has a lot to offer the world, and the world has always appreciated them, you know, for the good that they do, for the good person that they are. But like they are now like kind of strangely withdrawn because you know, think about like just you're in a mode where this is what you're having to cope with. You know, that like not only is your marriage falling apart, which it is, and not just falling, it has fallen apart. And the guilty party who has ruined everything has blamed everyone but himself, and has like proven himself to be the ultimate narcissist. You know, like actually literally blamed the victim. You know, literally said it. I read the text message. This asshole blamed the victim, the child that he befouled. You know what I'm saying? Like he blamed her. He blamed her for what's happening to their marriage and to their family. Oh, she's ruining this family. Oh, she destroyed our marriage. It's her fault for telling. It's her fault for telling that, like, that I committed a crime so vile that, you know, that if murderers and drug dealers were to hear of it, they would shiv me in the fucking shower. Sorry, language. But truth's gotta be told, people. Truth's gotta be told. Like, you gotta tell it somewhere. And you gotta tell it the way it is. Anyway, this guy has committed a betrayal that is disgusting, and I absolutely hope that he fries for it. And you know, like, I don't have to forgive him, and I don't have to forget. I don't have to. I'm not bound by that as a portion of my moral compass, you know? Like, certainly, yes, I do believe in having a moral compass, and certainly I do believe in the concept of forgiveness, and in the concept of you know, forgetting about slights that other people have committed against you. Like, yeah, absolutely. But we are not talking about a slight. We're not talking about, like, you know, making rude comments you know, in public, or you know, like we're not talking about, like, saying something in bad taste at an inopportune time. You know what I'm saying? Like, things that, you know, people still get upset about. People absolutely get upset about. And reasonably so. But, like, what you did is so much worse that it defies even speaking about it. Anyway, like, so disgusted. Like, just perpetually disgusted. And, it's hard to, continue to be a human being on this planet when you know that you have been so wrong about someone, you know? Like, I mean, it's hard to be like, don't blame yourself. There's no way you could have known. Yeah, like, it's true. I mean, there's no way I could have known, but still, though, I will be contacted by the powers that be because sorry, Rona. I'm all out of water. Hold up, give me a second. Okay, look, I'm gonna be honest. I paused and some time passed. I believe I was in the middle of a sentence talking about the unfair things that have happened in life to someone that I care very much about. And here's the entire point of that. Like, obviously, yes, we hope very terrible things happen in the life of the person who has hurt them so very much. But on the other hand, this person that I care about, they have to be able to go on about their lives, you know? They have to be able to move on and still find meaning. Now, here's the fun thing about that is that, we talked about life having no inherent meaning. Yes, exactly. No inherent meaning. Because the meaning is not baked in. If the meaning were baked into life, then we would never bother to ask the question. You know, people ask the question, what is the meaning of life? As if it is some, profound question. You know, even when I was a believer, when you would ask someone, like, what's an example of a deep question, even if you believe that you had the answer, which, like, why would you belong to a religion if you did not, you know? If the religion that you belong to does not answer the question, what is the meaning of life for you, in a way that you find satisfactory, then there's no point in belonging to that religion, is there? You know? Like, it has to some way, somehow inform what the meaning of life is for you. But also you recognize and accept that, like, that's not how it works for everyone, because not everyone is you, not everyone is like you. And so, yes, we all have our separate and distinct meanings of life, things that make life worthwhile for us. And I'll tell you what, like, some of the things that make life worthwhile for other people, I would sooner die than take on their meaning of life as a life meaning-making system, honestly. And I'm sure that there are people who could look at mine and be like, no, I would literally rather be dead than have that as my meaning-making system in life. Ugh. No. that doesn't work, that's not going to work for me, you know? Obviously, obviously there are going to be people who feel that way about it, which is fine. Because we are not all the same, and that's okay. Like, we get it. It's perfectly fine. And so the interesting thing is not that someone I love and care about quite a bit is going through a rough patch and has hard things that they have to deal with. Like, yes, that's sad, and I would rather life be much easier for them than it is right now. Like, yeah, of course I would. You know, you don't wish bad things, you know, because the people do the whole thing, tough time never lasts. Only tough people last. You know, or whatever. Like, I mean, you know that guy I'm talking about. But yeah, even so, like, they have to live through it, you know? Like, they have to wake up and have this be their reality, you know? And it's not pleasant, and it's not fun, and it's, you know, like, it's barely passable as life, and can only be acceptable as life for a certain amount of time. Like, this is the way it's gotta be. But yeah, like, I look at that and I'm like, yeah, but still, you know, if this is a person who is going to continue to have life, which if you don't at this point, then it just gives power to the worst person that we both know. So obviously life has to continue. So yeah, if out of spite, if for nothing else, there's a lot more than spite. You know, there's still a great belief that life can be beautiful and can be wonderful and can be meaningful, and that there can be many happy moments, you know, like when we go over there. I mean, she tells us that, you know, that we are some of her favorite people, and like we feel honored to be that, you know, because, you know, like that's not a relationship that you're going to have with everybody that you meet, you know? Like, there are going to be people that you click with and that you're going to be like, oh yeah, you're awesome, we really like you. And then there are going to be people that you don't. And whatever. Who cares? But, you know, like, to really be able to be there for someone in a time of great need is, you know, it's really something, you know. It's a test of the bonds that tie us together, you know. And when you find that the bonds that you have with people are strong enough to withstand all of this and more, it's, you know, it's a form of magic, you know. It's something to be in awe of, you know. It's funny because, like, a lot of people would be like, well, you know, if you don't accept the same paradigms that I do, and say that, you know, like, for instance, that, you know, Jesus is responsible for the good relationships that you have with your family. It's like, well, I don't know that he is. Like, I know that you believe that he is, and that's your business. You feel about that however you want. Like, you interpret my stuff any way you want. I will interpret yours any way I want. and you'll probably be more upset at my interpretations than I'll be at yours. But be that as it may, the fact remains that, like, we are all on this little tiny blue speck, you know, on the outer edge of a spiral arm of a galaxy in the middle of nowhere, you know, universe-wise. Like, not a particularly remarkable solar system, not a particularly remarkable galaxy, not a particularly remarkable quadrant of the universe itself, and yet here we are, the universe knowing itself and understanding, you know, we are Cyclopes, like the Cyclops of the Cyclops of the Odyssey, you know, the ones who the one specifically who they stabbed in the eye after telling him that their name was Nobody, and then they get stabbed in the friggin' eye, the one thing they had, and the other Cyclops come running and they're like, oh my god, this is a terrible thing, who did it? And they're like, nobody. It's like that still plays so many thousand years later. Like, really? You told them that your name was Nobody, and they're like, yeah, that's a reasonable name. And then later on, when you like turn hostile on them, they're trying to explain what happened. Who did this? Nobody. Like, that's still quality. Anyway, but those Cyclopses, okay, how did they lose their eye? How did they come to be very angry, bitter creatures with only one eye? Well, that is a bit of mythology, which is fun because mythology is just a word for a dead religion, you know. People were just as much into Zeus then as y'all are into Jesus now, you know. I mean, granted, they didn't have the ability to print up like Zeus t-shirts and sell them at the, you know, freaking Athenian Walmart. That was not a thing that was available, but I'm telling you, like, the way that people interacted with the divine was very much the same. They just had a different concept of divinity, which is, you know, can I give a brief plug for polytheism? That's a thing you hear on a lot of podcasts these days, or podcast is not a podcast, YouTube video. I know what this is. I know what I make. Anyway, this is a thing you hear a lot. Like, hey, can I give you a brief plug for polytheism? Anyway, here's why polytheism is, in a way, beautiful. Taking away from it the, like, not applying, like, freaking, you know, like, truth claims and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's not get bogged down into, you know, did Zeus, the actual god, really live on Mount Olympus? Like, okay, let's maybe not, you know, weigh ourselves down with that proposition. But on the other hand, let's talk about this. Let's talk about, you know, something worth actually discussing, because, like, to me, nothing is less fun to talk about than the, like, thou shalt believe this or thou shalt be doomed. You know what I'm saying? Like any of the thou shalt believe this or, such and such terrible thing is going to befall you. Ugh. I don't like those kind of things at all. Because at a certain level, it's like, thou shalt believe this. Well, why isn't it more self-evident then? Because why you gotta go be putting a thou shalt believe on something that is not, inherently believable to all members of this system? Because, like, by that knowledge, like, some of us are gonna be damned, and, like, the creator that made us in the first place is like, yeah, some of you are gonna be damned. I created you that way. And it's like, oh, well, oh, great, awesome. He's like, well, then start believing in me then. And I'm like, well, there are a number of competing paradigms also begging belief in them, and all of them claiming to be the right one for you. And that's just on the Christian spectrum. That's not even considering, truth claims of other religious traditions. Anyway, regardless. So, like, yeah, that's why the theology part of it is always like, let's not get bogged down in that business. I don't want to get like, oh, here's what you have to do in your life. It's very prescriptive of, like, the A, B, and C will get you into the good place. And, that, yeah. I'm not interested in deities with very strict dress codes. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just, if you've got a bite to eat for people who got a way to pay for it, good. But if you, make a guy put on a shirt and tie if he wants to even sit down at a table, I got questions as to why you're so snooty. Now, if you're a restaurant, an actual restaurant, I wouldn't end up there in the first place because I don't eat on the super expensive, like, first of all. Number two, I'm down home people, so, like, I'm not used to a fancy palate, I'm just a guy, so I'm not looking for, high class nonsense. I'm just looking for simple, basic, fill my needs. Anyway, yeah, let's get weird. Anyway, but yeah, so here's a fun thing talking about Greek mythology. So the Cyclopses, who are they and how did they get to be the way they are? Well, they lost their eyes. They were early on very much like humans. Only obviously they were bigger, but, like, they wouldn't have known it because they were proportional to each other and to the environment in which they lived. And so all would have seemed very normal to them. Anyway, so they're basically just humans living a human type existence, and they commune with the gods like people do. And the gods are like, hey, you Cyclopes, you Cyclops, you're pretty chill. What say we cut a deal with y'all? And the Cyclopes are like, yeah, that sounds wicked awesome. Like, we totally have been looking to cut a deal with deity. Like, yes, absolutely. Totally want that to be part of our freaking legacy as a species. So yeah, let's definitely cut a deal with the gods. And the deal they got was that they were going to be granted the ability to see into the future. And they couldn't think, like whenever you're dealing with the gods, there is like a high percentage chance that the gods are like just straight up tricking you for their own entertainment and amusement, because like the gods are highly flawed in their own way. Like Zeus obviously had a serious problem with like just being completely sex crazed, and everybody was like, freaking Zeus, like he'd nail anything that isn't nailed down. And basically that's how it goes in Greek mythology, is like, yep, Zeus is just out there causing trouble. I mean, at least it all seemed reasonably consensual, but I'm pretty sure someone could correct me on that and be like, well, it was in some cases, but in the case of this one that you completely overlooked, it wasn't that much at all. Anyway, but the fact is, like, yeah, so they cut a deal with the gods, the Cyclopses, the Cyclopses. They cut a deal with the gods. So they give up one of their eyes. They forever become this, species that has one eye in the middle of their forehead, and they are fine with this. They accept this as a natural result of dealing with gods. It's fine. It's fine. Nobody's going to say anything. Like, we're all just going to be cool. We're going to be adults about this. Like, we're not going to get all weird just because we used to have two eyes and now we got just one big one, like friggin' Leela from Futurama, just one big old blinky eye in the middle of our foreheads. And, we're not going to make people think about how weird it is every time they're around us. Anyway, regardless, they think through all of the possible ramifications, and they're like, yeah, we're good. That sounds amazing. You're going to give us the ability to see the future, and that is going to, like, it's just going to bring such peace to mankind. You think about it. The ability to see the future, to see around the bend, so that you don't have to wonder and worry and wait. You can just know. And so, like, in the face of whatever is going to happen to you, you already know what the outcome is going to be. And so, like, going into anything that seems worrisome or troubling or whatever, you could just be like, no, I got this. Like, I am good. I understand what's happening. I understand what will happen as a result. And I am following this through to the end. Like, it seems like it makes it pretty sweet. Pretty easy to, accept fate. Seems like there'd be a lot less, like, seems like people would just calm the frick down and take responsibility for themselves quite a bit, which, is something we have sorely lacked in society over the last few years. It's people being like, no, that's how I messed up. I said that or I did that and it was wrong and I shouldn't have. And I'm sorry, and let me try and, make it right somehow. We don't have a lot of that left in our society. But do you think that we would have more if people could see the end from the beginning and know that, like, oh, if I just swallow my pride and just own up to it, and, we both talk it out, and, everybody gets a chance to work through their feelings on this, and then we just, we'll move on, and we'll ultimately be happier and better. Like, you'd be able to look around the corner on behaviors and see potential consequences of them. And that would be so freaking valuable, I'm sure a lot of people thought about, like, being Biff Tannen all of a sudden, where you're like, oh, I gotta know all of the, sporting outcomes and whatnot, and, like, enrich myself off of the ability to know what's gonna happen next, But yeah, like, there's a bajillion different ways that you could use that power, but as it always is, this great gift from the gods was actually a curse, because once the Cyclopses could see the future that they could see, the thing that they could immediately understand and know, and like, oh geez, yeah, I do have quite a bit of dirt. Anyway, yeah, the thing that they all of a sudden knew and understood that they did not know before was how and when they die, their own death, and the inevitability of it. Because, to the gods, this is nothing. Seeing the future, it's just more of the same. It's just more continued existence in this, a state where you are, to be worshipped by people that you create and whose lives you control. It's fine. It's as it has been, so shall it be. It's all fine and dandy. But, yeah, like, from the perspective of a god, this is not a problematic gift. But from the point of view of a mortal, this is terrifying. This is absolutely the worst. The worst consciousness that you could lay on a creature is a thorough knowledge of its own demise. And yet, when you think about it, like, who on this freaking planet understands and is able to think about the fact that they are not going to live forever? Dolphins have pretty big brains, but you know what they lack the ability to do? They lack the ability, like, you don't find a lot of dolphins with ennui. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't find a lot of, like, listless dolphins who, have really considered the meaninglessness of their existence, and the fact that, like, no matter what they do, they are, just kicking against the pricks. They are, shaking fetters that will never shake free. You don't find a lot of dolphins feeling that way. But guess what? You do find a lot of human beings who are like, man, the idea of continued existence is appalling, and I don't want to anymore. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we are the ones. We are the Cyclopses. We are the ones who actually can know about our own existence, consider its value and consider whether or not we want to be a party to its continuance, you know? And some heavy business right there. Heavy business. Like, do we want to be a part of continued existence? You know? And I would never say, like, oh yeah, definitely when you consider the, like, consider existence or non-existence, definitely always existence. You know, it's easy to say that that's how we should all feel all the time, but we know that that's not how we all feel all the time, and thinking otherwise is it is absolutely brushing aside a very serious problem. You know, unfortunately, there are people out there who are not on board with their own continued existence, and, you know, given an opportunity, would not you know, would try to find a way to make sure that it doesn't continue. And that's troubling. I know someone in that boat. I've known several people in that boat over the course of my life. It hard, difficult, you know, and I'll tell you why it's difficult, because a bit of you always in the back of your mind kind of agrees with them. You know what I'm saying? That's what's horrifying, is that, like, when you know someone who is like, I don't know if it's worth it to continue this existence, and you look at them and you're like, I don't know what to say, because you know, you're talking a lot of sense right now, you know. Like that, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? Because, like, I get a lot of people, I know a lot of, like, I have a lot of students who feel this way on a fairly regular basis, you know. And yeah, it's terrifying. It's terrifying because, like, I'm always scared that I'm gonna, you know, get a call. Like, hell, I've gotten a call. I have gotten a call, and I have driven to a student's house, just, you know, middle of a freaking, you know, day on a weekend, just got a call, and everybody was like, you live closer than any of us. And I was like, okay, I'm there. I'm on my way. And I went, and I just was there with the kid, and everybody, like, eventually everybody was very confused as to who I was and why I was there, because parents had never met me, and you know, I had never been to their house before, and all of a sudden, like, you know, this, like, white dude, first of all, like 100% white dude, is showing up, in, you know, yeah, an area of town where we don't just show up unannounced, you know, like Mormon missionaries, and that's it, you know, might come through if they're feeling, I don't know, brave, I guess. But yeah, like, that's, I immediately went in there and was like, hey, let's talk. How are you doing? You know, and she was not doing great. She was very much not doing great. And I did not leave that house until they were leaving to take her to professionals to get her help, you know? And so, like, yeah, absolutely 100%, like, have been there, you know? And so, like, it's scary when you know people who have in their lifetimes asked the question, is continued existence worth it? And have come back with the answer, no, it is not. And it's funny because, like, you know, human beings are so funny and our brains are so ridiculous. You know, there are those among us who, like, the very question of, like, oh, should I continue to exist, is not even something that's ever going to cross their mind. Ever. Nor need it. You know? They're just gonna take it always as a given, and they're just gonna do what they do and not worry about it. And good for them. God, hopefully that's the future of our species right there. I mean, you know, all goes according to plan. That's what it'll be. But in the meantime, oh boy, we got work to do. And so, like, I look at these people that I know who have gone through such rough things in their lives, like things that I wouldn't give to a dog, and I'm not overly fond of dogs, you know. I'm just not, and I'm sorry, we've talked about this. But, like, you know, on the one hand, it breaks your heart to see what people go through. But on the other hand, like, that people find a way is kind of, not just kind of, it is one of the most magnificently glorious things about us as a species. You know, like, you look around at the different species on this planet and you think, like, man, first of all, you know, the most glorious of all the species is got to be the tortoise. Obviously, duh. Like, who would disagree with that? They've been essentially the same since the days of actual dinosaurs. They were like, we're tortoises. And dinosaurs were like, cool, we're going to be dinosaurs. And tortoises were like, all right, man, whatever. This is going to be over here chilling. And then the dinosaurs were like, yeah, we're going to die out. Extinction events and whatnot. And tortoises were like, yeah, we're just going to keep being what we are. Maybe bring in a few new models, you know, that are like slight variations on a theme, but it's basically the same idea for the last, you know, several 100 million years. You know? And just, yeah, it's the same basic idea, like, just keep being a tortoise. Because it's a very stable thing to be. Just be a tortoise, and, like, you know, you don't need to eat that often. You get most of your liquids from your greens that you eat, and you could, like, literally eat straight up weeds on the side of the highway if you needed to, and, like, and be totally fine. Like, 100% exactly fine. Anyway, friggin' tortoises, they're amazing. It's true. I'm glad you agree that tortoises are amazing. But the thing about tortoises is that you take a tortoise, wherever you put it down, it will figure out a couple of things. It'll be like, okay, number one, this is where I eat. Number two, this is where I poop. And it might be like very close to each other, those two positions. Like, wow, why are you sleeping and pooping so close to each other? And Tortoise be like, don't ask so many questions. It's unnecessary. And then you think about Tortoise and you're like, you know what, Tortoise, you might be right. Some of these questions I keep hammering myself with are maybe not the most necessary. It is true. Anyway, so yeah, like Tortoise figures out where to eat, where to poop. No matter, like, you put him in a small box to take him to the vet, and he's like, all right, I'm going to eat over here, I'm going to poop over here. You get to the vet, and it's like a little room, and he's like, okay, I'm going to eat over here, I'm going to poop over here. You know, and whatever size of room or enclosure you put him in, he's just going to re-gauge everything and just be like, okay, this one necessity happens over here, the other necessity happens over there. Done. All of my needs taken care of. You know? And there's something something so remarkable about that. But you know, we humans try the nether. I don't know that I want to. We humans, like, boy, we are a tricky bucket of fish. Because the very idea that any of us could be so dissatisfied with life that we wouldn't want to continue it, that's, you know, like, not very many things get to be alive. Out of the vast majority of things that exist that we know about, most of them are not alive. Like, most of the places that we know about are not hospitable for life, are in fact quite hostile to life. And so, like, yeah, we know of very few places that are hospitable for life, and we live in one of them, which is not that surprising because, you know, life showing up in a place that's good for life, that's pretty impressive, but not really that impressive. You know, it'd be way more impressive if, like, it was inhospitable for life and we're like, guess what, we're living anyway. Anyway, but that, you know, we're not getting into other disagreements and arguments and whatnot. Here's the thing, though, and bring it all the way back around. No matter what terrible things happen to you in your life, you still have the power to interpret meaning any which way you want. You know, you get to decide what makes you happy and what makes you satisfied. And when do you feel, when you look around at the life that you have, you know, at what point do you say, this is good, I like this, I feel good about this, this is fine with me? You know, like, how do you know where to put that you know, mark on the gauge so that you know that this is when things are optimized for me? You know, how do you know? Well, you don't. Not until you get out there and try and find it. And that's the beauty of the thing, is that, like, there's something out there that will tickle your fancy and make you realize that, like, man, this is what really makes it worthwhile for me. You know, there's a million ways to answer that question, but I'm telling you, like, it's it is amazing that life has no meaning, and yet it is so rich with meaning. If you let it, if you let it be, then it could be so very rich with meaning. But that's your choice. And the funny thing is, like, all of our existentialist philosopher friends would tell us that existence precedes essence, that we come into this world with no pre-programmed, this is what the meaning of life is. And that over time, we just either accept or reject, find, alter, and, move in and through meaning-making systems. So like, if your parents are Christian, they'll probably raise you Christian. That does tend to be the way. It'd be really weird if your parents were Christian and they raised you Muslim. That would really surprise everyone. Anyway, including the Muslims, especially the Muslims. Anyway, so yeah, like everybody gets to accept or reject the meaning-making systems that their parents have in place, and I'm not implying that parents are like in any way manipulative or whatever. Like, people always want to make these accusations. Like, parents are just trying to give to their children the same meaning that they had, or at least an analog to it, something that means as much to them as anything has ever meant, and that's what parents try and share with their children now, in lieu of, a religious tradition specifically. Anyway, it is remarkable that even if you were approaching it from within a dogmatically religious system, you still have the opportunity to choose what it is that you're going to do. And so, like, even if you become involved in a very restrictive religion, the choice to become involved in that religion is strictly your own, and therefore you determine that meaning-making system is something important for you in your life for whatever reason you want to choose that, and then you go with it, and then there's your meaning in life, and yeah, the only thing you have to remember is not get so arrogant with your meaning of life that you think that it ought to be everyone's meaning of life. Because there are always people who are going to look at your meaning of life and be like, well, that's all fine and good, but yeah, and that's why there are going to be potentially as many meanings of life as there are people in the universe. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't considered anything of importance whatsoever in this one. That's ridiculous. Maybe next time, people. I don't know. I don't know if there's anything we can think about in the next one. All right, that's it for this one. I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.